Okay. Oh, we are streaming. Okay, good, good, good. That was weird. There was a hiccup. I apologize for that. It sounded really strange, but we are streaming. I am watching the chat. So if you come by and you're watching and you post in the chat, I will see it. Let me know if I'm too loud or too quiet. I think it looks like I'm, based on what I'm seeing, it looks like I'm okay, but the levels can be weird. And I hope you're not getting echo from the game audio, because that's coming directly through the stream. Okay. All right. So, here we go. I'm just going to hang out. We're going to do this for a little while. The reason that I'm doing this is because your standard Capcom 8-star difficulty scale applies here. Time limit, yes. Jump, attack, pin. I usually change the pin to X for whatever reason. That's just how I'm comfortable. The reason I'm doing this is because I recently put out a commentary video on the Saturday Night Slam Masters episode of Same Name, Different Game. And when everybody told me they weren't going to be around tonight, I basically thought, you know, this would be a good time to do this. And, you know, kind of talk about it. And that kind of thing. So you get a single match and a team battle royal, which is a tornado tag match. But just to give a little more insight into this game, I'm playing the Super NES version, not the Genesis version tonight, but they're pretty similar. The main difference is that the Genesis version has the option to play as the boss characters in the single player mode. The Genesis version also has a death match, but it's a 2-player mode only. So the Super Nintendo version looks a little better and sounds, I would say, a fair amount better. Which is why I'm playing it tonight. Although it is missing a couple frames of animation and it's missing some voice samples. But overall, the appearance and the sound are better on the Super NES than the Genesis. And I've also said this before, but the... oh, what a maneuver. The follow-up, Muscle Bomber Duo, which was a... nice German. Muscle Bomber Duo, which was an arcade-only release, is actually a better game because it creates a dedicated grapple button, which this game does not have. So you sort of wander close and, you know, sometimes... what a maneuver. Sometimes you know, get lucky and get in a grapple and you're the one grappling, and sometimes you don't. There we go. That's Biff Slamkovich out of the way for Luchador El Stingray. So, yeah, so that's basically why I wanted to play it, is just to offer a little more context than that commentary track, and because I know this is something that most of the other guys aren't interested in. You know, Eric might be around. Comrade Zangief was right, you all fight cheap. I didn't even mention that. In the video I did, that Zangief is mentioned by name here. Mexico City. This is truly, the Capcom Wrestling Association is a global promotion. And of course, El Stingray cannot lose on his home turf of Mexico. There's Rastaman, very clearly inspired by the legendary Frank Goodish, aka Bruiser Brody. Each stage has a different musical theme. Each stage has a slightly different ring and ring skirts and all that stuff. You don't usually see the ring skirts unless you jump out of the ring, but there they are. There's the ring skirts. They're different in each stage to a certain extent. Like I said, the canvas, the design is different. I'm getting my ass kicked by King Rastaman. Oh, wow. What a counter to the vicious jalapeno comet. There we go. Oh no, you want to go outside the ring. So, an interesting twist. The Japanese rules of professional wrestling are slightly different than the American rules of professional wrestling. And so, you have things like, in a lot of Japanese video games, so that's not good. In a lot of Japanese wrestling games, the ring out is 20, because in Japanese pro wrestling, as I'm sure you can imagine, the ring out is 20. Which always confused me as a kid. Big butterfly suplex daddy. Yeah, the Japanese ring out is 20 in Japanese wrestling, which it's arbitrary. It doesn't really matter what the count out is, because the ref is going to count as slowly as he needs to let whatever spots need to get done on the outside get done, and not count them out. Of course, in a video game, that's different. But even a lot of video games count slow when they get up, closer to the number. And even games based on specific real, American promotions do that. When they're localized, they don't change the count to 10 instead of 20. And that's like the WCW N64 games. The ring out count is still 20. Even though in WCW the count was never 20. There's Mayor Mike Hagar. I believe that the canon is technically that this game takes place before Mike is the mayor of Metro City. German suplex. Look at the power of El Stingray to suplex a man that much larger than him. Oh no. Spinning pile driver. Spinning lariat. Yeah, I think the American version said that it was after Final Fight, because Final Fight was super popular, and they just, I don't know, they just wanted to give it that. This could be bad. This could be bad news bears. Get up! Oh no! Darn. I demand a rematch. Oh, we got some people in the chat. Why, Signally Why says memories of renting this game as a kid and before Final Fight 3 Ponytail. And McLean says, I'm always shocked when a wrestling match actually ends on a reasonably fast count out. Well, they end on a reasonably fast count out when they're supposed to, because, that's what the finish is. So they just count at a normal pace. Yeah, this is before the Final Fight 3 Ponytail. This game is also before Final Fight 3. That was a pretty late Super NES title. This game came out in, I want to say this game came out on the Genesis and the Super Nintendo in 92. So pretty early on the Super Nintendo lifespan. Which is why there's no Ponytail. But yeah, in this version, I think they changed it to be after Final Fight 1. But the Japanese version, I believe, always said that it was a prequel. This is his wrestling life. Oh, take that! This is his wrestling life before his mayoral aspirations. Boom. Take that. And as you can see, there's the ring skirts, and like I said, they are slightly different. So there are special grapples in this game, but they're really hard to pull off. Like, Stingray has a big head-busting move where he does this jalapeno comet, except he does it straight down He kicks off the guy and does it straight down under the top of his head. And that's the finish. That's his finish, but it's really hard to do because when you can't control when you grapple very well, and you have to do like a dragon punch once you're grappled, and if you don't do it fast enough, your opponent breaks the grapple, all that stuff. Let's see, McLean Stream says, I just watched some of Rocky Maivaia's debut in my WWE pay-per-view chronology. Yeah, his debut was at Survivor Series 1996, if memory serves. He was not particularly good. I honestly don't really think he was ready, and the crowd sort of reacted in that way. But obviously, he grew into be quite a star. This is interesting. I mentioned this again in the Same Name Different Game episode, but the turnbuckles change based on where you are in the world in this game. So we are, I think, I wasn't paying attention because I was reading the chat, but I believe this match is in Japan. So we've got Japanese-style turnbuckles, which is the one pad over all three turnbuckles. Butterfly suplex. The big problem is that this game does not incentivize grappling in a good way, because again, it's so hard to know when you're going to grapple and make sure that you get the grapple over your opponent. Oh, there's the neck wringer. That's his finish, and it's also really hard to pull off. You have to do a full circle. Full circle and hit a button. Obviously, the computer player is much better at pulling that off than I am. McLean says, I say some of because I can't be asked to watch these old, long Survivor Series matches with no stakes to speak of. Yeah, I mean, sometimes they're just fun to watch. It depends on who's in them, right? The really weird ones are if you go back to, we're in Moscow now. If you go back to the first Survivor Series, there's a Survivor Series match made up of, instead of 5 individual wrestlers, it's 5 tag teams. So it's 20 guys, 10 guys on each side. And it's ridiculous. Fortunately, if your partner is eliminated, you are eliminated. So, there's some mercy being shown there. Oh my, what a boot. What a haluva kick. A fan to thank for that. Oh, man. This has a very Rey Mysterio Big Show kind of feel to it. Yeah, and he's got a move that will submit you, which is not good. If I wanted to be a jerk, I could spam the jalapeno comment. What a reversal. Uh-oh. Ooh! Side Russian leg sweep, I think, is what that was supposed to be. And there's the Luger-esque torture rack. Thank goodness I didn't give up. Who kicks out at 1? So you can throw weapons into the ring. And in spite of the fact that the ref is watching, you are not disqualified for using them. Like that. Move, move, get up. Oh, my foot's in the rope. Come on. McLean says even in a video game, the torture rack looks like garbage. That's true. It's not a good move. I've said this. I demand a rematch because my foot was clearly in the rope when that 3 was counted. So Moscow. This is one of the earliest games to have entrances and like entrance attire. But again, if you have access to MAME, which I'm sure most, if not all of the people watching this do have access to MAME, Muscle Bomber Duo is really the way to go. By adding a dedicated grapple button, the game becomes just so much more playable. You know, like I can't even really get close to Tim because he's so big and his range is so ridiculous and his grapples are so overpowered that you know, it's just there you go. See, I had to spam striking attacks. Make a taunt from the top rope. There we go. It's a big kick, big boot. I'm going to try to do the finish. Nope, nope. Big back body drop and a senton. That'll do it. I hope you guys are hearing me all right. Nobody said that there's any problem, so I assume that means yes. I like that I get a suplex pin bonus when I didn't do a suplex pin. I've always been mystified about that particular bonus in this game because it doesn't really make sense, but McLean says no big guy gimmick should be allowed to move that quickly. Yeah, in video games. And apparently my voice is loud and clear, so that's good as well. You know, the tragedy, and I said this in the commentary track that I did, sounds silky smooth like an NPR wrestling show. I don't even know what an NPR wrestling show would sound like, although I have been told that I sound kind of like Ira Glass before. When I sort of do my you know, radio sort of presentation voice. Oh my goodness. What a maneuver. Greater Alexander the Greater, who according to the US story is like a wrestling chef, is pretty clearly inspired by Big Van Vader. Hence a lot of press slams, power bombs. Not sure about where the 100 hand slap thing comes from, but so that's a really interesting thing. That flying kick, that backflip is supposed to actually move me away from him, and in the Super Nintendo version, it doesn't. But in the Genesis version, the arcade version, it does. So when you hit that kick, he does that back handspring, and it puts space between you and the opponent. And in the Super Nintendo version, he just does it in place. And I don't know why that is, but Civil Twilight says I sound a little quiet, but nice, and also high. Hi, Civil Twilight. If I'm too loud now, let me know. Gun lock. My guns are locked and ready and loaded. Something. Again, the US version makes a claim that Gunlock is like Guile's cousin or something, and I don't think that's in the Japanese version. I think that's a US claim only. But all the worlds are sort of contiguous, as you can gather by Mike Hagar's inclusion and the earlier mention of Zangief by Biff Slamkovich. So, Ruh-roh. Vertical suplex. two of Stingray's grapples are suplexes. One is a butterfly suplex, like that one right there, and then one is like sort of more like a snap suplex. But the animations are not that different that if you don't know the difference between those two moves, they look like it looks like it's the same move. Like he got shorted a grapple. What a clothesline. What a brutal, brutal clothesline. There's the regular suplex. Nobody ever gets a pin off like a snap vertical suplex, but in this game you gotta take the pin as soon as you can get it, because the AI can be really nasty in this game. I have it on the default difficulty. Difficulty's gonna get harder as soon as I win the title, because to see the ending you have to win the title, and then you have to defend the title, and I may not get there tonight. I'm gonna log off at 11. Or as close to 11 as I can with, you know, a match ending there. So once you win the title, then you have to defend it against everybody again to see the actual ending. So this is Jumbo Flapjack. And Jumbo Jack in the Genesis version is playable in the single player mode, and he is not in the Super Nintendo version. He's only playable if you're playing versus mode, basically. He's got a vaguely Abdullah the Butcher sort of mixed with Road Warrior animal thing going on. The bosses in this game are not like SNK cheap, but they can well and truly be bastards. Scorp more than Jumbo Jack, but as you can see, he is doing a number on me. I'm gonna take a powder here. Hope that he's dumb enough to follow. And of course there are no weapons, because of course there are no weapons. He's not gonna follow. Come on, man. Come on down. No? That's it for me. If you're in a submission hold when your life bar drains all the way, that's it. You are done. McLean streams, do you like the recent WWE games? I'm sort of interested in career mode now that they have NXT, but I'd almost rather just do all the backstage stuff with simulated matches than actually play a wrestling game. No idea if that's an option. So, it's funny you should mention that, because I actually hadn't played one since I think WWE 12. It had been a couple of years since I'd played a WWE game, 3 or 4 years. WWE 12, I think, is the most recent one that I actually own, and I think I played 13 from GameFly, and I actually have 16 from GameFly right now. And I was thinking about playing it, but I haven't finished making my character, and the whole hour of this stream would be me assigning moves to my guy. Because that's as far as I got last night. I got to making the character model, and I didn't do really any of the moveset stuff except for taunts and finishers. And I didn't want you guys to just watch me do that for an hour. So I like it, though. The thing that I did play a little bit of was there's this. They've added an interesting sort of story mode, and I guess they've done it in years past. But this year it is, there's a little sort of an Oklahoma Stampede type move from Jumbo Jack there. This year it's Stone Cold, so you're basically playing through the career of Stone Cold Steve Austin, and, you know, the first match is, against Jake Roberts at King of the Ring 96, and then, like, it uses the audio of the actual clip, you know, while it shows the in-game engine, but it uses the audio from the actual clip of Michael Hayes interviewing Austin and get that piece of trash out of my ring. You know, Austin 316 says, "I just whipped your ass," and all that stuff, which is cool. The next match is against Brett at WrestleMania 13, which is weird because Austin loses that match, so I don't know how they make that work in the game because I haven't played it yet. But I like that aspect of it. The system is, I haven't fully grokked it yet, honestly, because wrestling games now are really complicated. The systems are pretty deep, and I don't really know why. they're very complicated fighting games, and I think anybody watching the stream probably knows that what are generally considered to be the best wrestling games of all time had a pretty simple control scheme. I'm talking, of course, about I love that he has trouble getting out of the ring. I'm talking about the AKI developed games for the Nintendo 64, which really, they had one button for grappling and one button for... Oh, God, what a maneuver. I can't believe he was able to get him over. One button for grappling and one button for striking, and you could hold them for varying lengths. I'm trying to get off the finisher here, but that's a bad idea because this is a boss character and they can be jerks. So I'm just going to pin him. Also, I don't know why it paused. So WWE 2K16 is interesting. It's got a really in-depth system. There's weird stuff with the submissions where you have to do this weird mini game where you have to line up. The person in the submission has a red bar and the person putting the submission on has a blue bar, and you have to circle them around and get if you're putting the submission on, you want them to overlap, and if you're in the submission, you want them to not overlap, and that determines how quickly you can escape the submission and stuff like that. And I just don't know that adds anything to the game. Basically, why I said it's just a shame Slam Masters 2 did never get a port. Slam Masters 2 and Muscle Bomber Duo, neither of them got a port. Slam Masters 2 is also not as good, though, I don't think. Slam Masters 2 is really just another Street Fighter. It's got a wrestling motif, but it's basically, Street Fighter 2 or any one of Capcom's other 2D fighting games, which, I like Capcom's 2D fighting games. I like the Darkstalker series. I like Cyberbots. I like all those games, but Slam Masters 2 is, whatever. It's fine. McLean said, I think what I want is a wrestling simulation manager game, maybe even a booking mode. I don't generally like fighting games. So I don't know. I think they still make it. It used to be called Extreme Warfare. And I don't know if it's still called that, but I think it is. And I think they still make it. I don't know why it keeps pausing like that. So there must be something wrong with this controller. But Extreme Warfare was basically that. It was a booking simulator. It was text-based. I think now there's a very sort of minimal GUI, but certainly when my feet were in the ropes, ref. I also like Scorp's lackadaisical, leaning elbow pin. But Extreme Warfare was basically a booking simulator. You could create titles, you created a promotion, you created wrestlers, I know that in more recent versions, and we're going back 15 years plus since I played it, and 10 years plus since I've seen a build of it. Civil Twilight says it's called Total Extreme Wrestling now, apparently. Okay, well that makes sense. But it's basically a booking simulator, so that's what you're looking for. And at one point, again, we're talking 10 years ago that I've seen the game, but you could, real wrestlers, indie guys and stuff, and they had, little headshots of them and stuff, and so you could recruit, indie guys and run your promotion that way. So if that's what you're looking, and it's free, or it was free last I was aware, it was free. So that's the thing you're into, I would say, that's something to look into. I don't know if it's still free. If it's not still free, it can't be that expensive. So yeah, that's something to check out. And you could play the matches sort of in a very basic sort of text parser, but you could also just book the matches, and it was it was like Lemonade Stand meets pro wrestling. So, but yeah, 2K16 is pretty decent from what I've played so far. I really need to play more to get a better sense of the systems. But I like the Austin thing because that was his finish, by the way, if you couldn't tell. But one of his finishes. He's got one where he takes you up and does a spinning body slam thing, and then he's got that Tiger Driver, electrified Tiger Driver thing. And fun fact for those who follow wrestling, Scorpion wears the mask of Tenebris, who's a real Mexican wrestler. I believe Tenebris Jr. is the current, the son of Tenebris. The original Tenebris has been retired, I think, for some time. But that's where the mask comes from. Okay, we're going to skip that. Yeah, so anyways, I think simple is generally the way to go. You see, I'm not getting a single move in here. There we go. Because sometimes the computer will just get you, and that's his other finish. That's the spinning body slam thing I was talking about. Ugh. They'll get you in. Look at how much energy that takes off. See, the problem is the computer can grapple whenever it wants, and since you don't have a dedicated grapple button, you really can't. There we go. Which is the biggest problem with this game. But, again, Muscle Bomber Duo fixes that. Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We assume this match takes place in the Saddle Dome, the biggest venue in Calgary, because how could the Capcom Wrestling Association not sell out in a crossover with I think they're called the Blood Wrestling Federation, I think is the name of the invading promotion, which is Scorpion and Flapjack are invaders from another federation. I believe it's the Blood Wrestling Federation is the name of it. Taunt. Yeah, see, and that's the big thing. I mentioned that move earlier. Part of it is that if you miss, again, in the arcade and Genesis versions, you do that back handspring and it gives you some space so that if you miss, you're not lined up for a counter. Row. And actually my history with this game goes back, it goes back to when it came out. I played it quite a bit, but some of you watching may know that I was/am a member of a forum called Talking Time. It's Jeremy Parrish's forum, and I did a Let's Play of this game. See, there's that thing again. He just picks you up, does a move. You can't do anything to counter until you're out of energy. Yeah, I'm a member of a forum called Talking Time. I did a Let's Play of this game. Although the last time I looked at any part of it, all the video links were broken. So all the gameplay stuff was just screenshots. It was just text style Let's Play when those still existed. I don't think people do those anymore. I don't know if they do. But it's just screenshots. And I did it as though it was a real wrestling promotion. So it was like I had, this Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan stand in doing commentary and all that stuff. And but I would do, at the end of every update, I would do a promotional consideration paid for by the following bit and put in a link to a commercial. And I would also put in some links to some moves because I knew that some of the people who were watching were not wrestling fans. So if I said, oh my goodness, what a German suplex like I just did there, I would put a link to someone, a video clip of someone doing a German suplex so that the non-wrestling fans could have a sense of what that would look like in motion. and a glass bottle. And a lot of those links are now broken. Talking about your all-time backfires. Ugh. But you can check it out if you find your way to talking-time.net, talking-time.net. It is still up, even if some of the video links are broken. Ugh. Civil Twilight says that was a fun Let's Play. Thank you. McLean says, I still like text Let's Plays. I just don't tend to have time to keep up with them. I can manage to watch YouTube while working. Yeah, that's legit. I honestly didn't even realize people still did text-based Let's Plays. I thought everybody had migrated to video. Since it's so easy now. Most people, especially if you're doing older games, you get an emulator, and you get, an emulator, and you get an unregistered copy of Hypercam. I don't think people do that anymore, but you see that all the time. You'd see gameplay footage on YouTube, and they all had that unregistered Hypercam watermark in the corner. But you get a screen capture. A lot of emulators actually record now natively. Kega Fusion, which is like the sort of premier Sega emulator, it does 32X and Game Gear, and it's what I use for so far it's what I've used for all the Game Gear footage in any of my videos, which I don't like doing, which is actually why my Game Gear is out getting modded right now, so that I don't have to use an emulator anymore. Kega Fusion captures video natively. MAME captures video natively, or at least I use I forgot what it's called. MAME. What is it called? I don't remember. There's some overlay for MAME that I use that captures footage natively. I think the normal version. MAME is open source, so you can find a lot of sort of modifications on it that make use of that kind of stuff. So looks like I might actually get the Duke this time. There we go. That big kick off the top. Uh-oh. You could turn it around. You gotta be kidding. Come on. Because of course he did. You can use OBS to record anything, but yeah, that's right. OBS is free, and you can use OBS to... Unless you're like me, and for whatever reason, OBS crashes my computer every time I run it, so... But that's fine. Like right now I'm streaming to you from the Elgato software, right, using OBS. OBS crashed anytime I tried to do monitor capture. Now it crashes 50% of the time. You just got Cena'd, son. Yeah, that was more of a Hogan comeback, I think, in my estimation. Plus, lately, Cena's been putting a lot of people over. So, he put Kevin Owens over before he left. He beat Sami Zayn, but he put him over really strong in beating him. And that U.S. title open challenge thing was probably one of the best things Cena's ever done. Both, from an idea standpoint and from a performance standpoint. Man, Scorp does the laziest Irish whip. Belly to belly. I can't do anything. I get up, he grapples me, he throws me. I get up. I had 1 second to do something there. Picks me up. And again, they're not SNK boss cheap, but this is pretty ridiculous. And again, it all centers on not being able to use a grapple button. to get close to him and use the strike button, and sometimes you grapple and sometimes you just punch him anyways. And bridging German suplex, very nice scorp. You know, and that's the point where you start just like spamming weird, you know, but even that doesn't work. Ridiculous. McLean, I actually really liked seeing his U.S. champ run. Him working the mid-card was a classy vet move, and I hope he comes back to do that kind of work. Well, at this point, there's just really no reason to put the title on him again. He doesn't need it to be over. The show doesn't need him to, you know, there's just no reason for it. It's the same thing, there's no reason to put it on Triple H again. And I don't think Triple H will, I think Triple H sucks up to Ric Flair too much to want it again, because if he gets it again, then he'll tie Ric Flair's record of most world championship reigns. And I think Triple H is too much of a mark for Ric Flair to actually do that. Ugh. Yeah, see, when you throw... I'm in the middle of a kick animation and he just grapples over me. In the middle of an attack animation, he, you know... There it is again. You literally cannot do anything if they don't want you to. Yeah, so there's just not a reason to put Cena back at the top of the card unless there's just a ton of injuries and that kind of thing. Which, I mean, there are a fair number of injuries right now, but Cena's off anyways. And, you know, he did that surprise appearance at WrestleMania, which was totally pointless. And then he's gone again. And he's hosting some reality show, again, mid-attack animation, and he just, you know, just nope. And I can't grapple him, you know, even if that's what I want to do. And it gets a little frustrating, as you can tell. What a moonsault. Okay. I hit him with a foreign object, and he immediately grapples me immediately after the hit. I get up, he grapples me. So, once again, as much as I do like this game, like, my God, can it get frustrating in these last couple of matches. Oh, no water in the pool for you there, buddy. Well, thank you for taking a moment to breakdance. That's another one of his specials. He's got more specials than anybody else because he's the final boss, of course. Let's see. Civil Twilight says, seems like there are a lot of things that happen at WrestleMania where the sentence ends, which was totally pointless. Yeah. Yeah, Eric and I talked about it on what's going to be the next What a Maneuver, so if you want our opinions on that, they'll be readily available. But yeah, there was a lot of booking which was like, that did nothing. It didn't move the story any real direction. I felt that way about Ambrose Brock, Shane. McLean said something, Shane, why do the cage match if Shane is going to end up managing anyways? Because they don't want to break the Undertaker's streak again, or whatever, especially to a non-wrestler. That match was not good, though. I mean, it may be time for the Undertaker to hang it up, because that match was two dudes just crawling around. But yeah, even the women's title, which was, I would say pretty much inarguably the best match on the show. I don't understand why keep the title on Charlotte at this point. Oh, thanks, random fan who threw a bottle in the face of my opponent. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Your winner and new Capcom Wrestling Association champion, El Stingray. It was a sad old man slap fight that existed for the one stunt. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. It was there for the one elbow drop. So we get this bit of being the new champion. So this is sort of, I guess you get the ending after you win, but you have to defend it to get the quote-unquote real ending, which is the guy from the opening movie rips his shirt off. He comes out and, challenges you to a match, which is weird because he's not actually in the game, and he's not in Muscle Bobber Duo. He is in Slam Masters 2 Ring of Destruction is what it's called. He's in that one. Which, again, isn't really a wrestling game. It's Street Fighter. So, women's match was good except for the finish. Yeah, that's basically it. The women's match at WrestleMania was good except for the finish. And it wasn't even necessarily the finish itself, I didn't think, as much as it was the way it was shot. You couldn't really tell that Flair had Sasha by the foot, and the announcers didn't put that over at all until after the match was over. And I think that, in the moment, to shoot it that way and to not put that fact over does a disservice to the finish of the match, and it's sort of trying to have your cake and eat it too if you're trying to get Charlotte over, which is weird because Charlotte's over as a heel anyways. I don't know. So that was the head rocker, I think it's called. There it is again. That's Biff's finish, according to the instruction manual. I really wanted to be able to show you Stingray's. Oh, speaking of the Undertaker, Tombstone Piledriver for Biff. That's going to do it for El Stingray. Having your first women's title after retiring the Diva's name decided by interference by an old man is a terrible look. I actually don't think that's honestly, I don't think that's a thing. Just because, Charlotte has been winning because of him. That's what managers do, right? Whether the manager is a man or a woman or whoever the manager is, that's the function of a manager. If your manager's not going to get involved in the matches and cause a fuck finish, then there's no point in having them. So I'm fine with that. I just don't think it was executed especially well. You got to remember, it's still a work, right? It's still, there's still a story to be told here, and the story they're trying to tell is that Charlotte is not as good as the other two, presumably, but that because her father, who is the dirtiest player in the game and has always historically been so, is in her corner. And I'm fine with that story. I just think that they kind of blew it on actually telling that story. Charlotte needs to turn on Rick to cement her heel status. I don't know about that. I think, my problem with that is that, you've got a heel turning on a heel, and then you make Rick sympathetic, and then what? Do you put Rick with Sasha Banks, or where do you go from there? You might just have better luck by maybe turning her babyface and having her get rid of Rick because she wants to win on her own merits, and then, eventually turning her heel again if that's what you want to do. But I don't know about having her turn on Rick. There's been a lot of shit like that in recent pay-per-views. They desperately need to revamp the TV crews. Yeah, I don't think that is what it is. I don't know. I assume they have good people. You would think if you're a billion-dollar company or whatever, you would hire skilled... I don't know that I put it down to incompetence. Let's put it that way. I think that they did it that way on purpose because they, again, wanted to be able to pretend Charlotte won clean when it's convenient for them, which I don't especially love, because the problem is it gets her over at the expense of Sasha, who just doesn't break up the pin for no reason, if you frame it that way. Civil Twilight says, I love New Day. I'm fine with the manager fucking with the match, but I think Charlotte's come far enough that she deserves to get a win without Rick. She was already the champion. And I think in a match, in a three-way, I think it makes perfect sense for her, to go over dirty. And I guess you could argue that she could cheat on her own, but, yeah, I don't know. I that's definitely not an uncommon complaint that I've seen. I guess I just disagree. My problem is not with Ric Flair interfering, it's with the way it was handled. So as you can see, the opponents get harder on the second playthrough. They get a lot more skilled. The first time I fought Rasta, I took him down pretty easily. So, and actually, speaking of New Day, we only got about 3 minutes left before we're going to call it a night here. But speaking of New Day, their segment in WrestleMania I was not hugely fond of. Them coming out of the giant Booty-O's box, and they were dressed like Dragon Ball characters, and that stuff was all great. But they lose a 4-on-3 match, which I don't really understand. It's one of those things where I just don't get it. Usually you do a handicap match to illustrate that the team that is handicapped is, in fact, the more... it's that overcoming thing, right? They have to overcome the odds, and they do because they're better, or because that's the good outcome. Whether that's because the team with more people slips on a banana peel, or in some cases it's the thing where it's Big Show just beating up a couple of jobbers just to prove that he can lay waste to two guys at once, or whatever that thing is. That's usually the goal. So I don't really understand doing a handicap match, and it doesn't move the story really in an important way, because basically what you're saying is, oh, well, these 4 guys beat these 3 guys. Well, yeah, obviously, as expected. So they're not made to look great because they had a decided advantage, and New Day just looks kind of the same, because it's hard to be like, well, why did you lose to 4 guys? It's because there were 4 of them and 3 of us. So that's just weird, non-committal booking. But what happened afterwards is what really, is just weird. The guys who just beat you now just got beat up by 3 different guys, all of whom, by the way, are retired. And, that's not a good look as far as I'm concerned. Nobody loses anything getting beat up by Stone Cold. It's just a weird decision, though, to say, you know, Stone Cold Sean and Mick come down and they beat up these four guys who just beat one of the hottest stables on the roster. It's just weird. McLean says I was super confused that it wasn't for the title, and literally didn't know that until the next night when they were still champs. But how did four guys win the title? I mean, you're going pretty far with the Freebird rule to have four dudes be able to hold two belts. Symbol Twilight says, I loved hearing Cole say that's clearly Vegeta. Clearly off a note card. That was one of the highlights of the evening. So the time is now 11 p.m., and I'm facing Mayor Hagar again, and he's probably going to kick my ass, so I think we're just going to call it a night here. So thanks to everybody who came out, hung out in the chat, talked wrestling, all that stuff. I'm going to be doing a new 5 Reasons this weekend, so that should be up next week. And we'll be back, some configuration of the On the Stick crew will be back next Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern with another stream. Thanks for coming, and have a wonderful, wonderful evening.